Well, hello everybody. Once again, we're back, and hope y'all are having a good Sunday evening. You saw in the time lapse there, we were looking off to the west-southwest, and you could see a lot of clouds moving from south to north. And there it is. This is the 850 millibar chart. This is up at about 5,000 feet, and this is showing that south-southwest flow that we have across Texas. And there it is right there. And it's feeding up into this low-level jet that's over the Kansas City area. Maybe I'll bring this a little bit further north so you can get a look at that. And as you go a little bit further north, you see a low-pressure area there in southern South Dakota there. So all this air is racing up to this low-pressure system, and strongest winds 65 to 70 knots there around the Kansas City area. So if we had a little bit of moisture, we would probably be able to squeak out some severe weather out of this. But yeah, the moisture is a bit of a problem. Let's go through the chart and just kind of do our analysis quickly. Okay, we're at 0Z. This is the 6-hour forecast. And let's see here. Okay. Looks like a cold front has pushed through New Mexico. You see how that thickness gradient has moved all the way down into this area. So we're going to expect to find a front through West Texas. And the warm front position is kind of indeterminate. You could place it up here. There's an area of tighter thickness packing here, so you could make a case for it further south in Texas. But anyways, you go further west, then we start picking up the upper level system across northern Arizona. So how does that look on the surface data? Well, if we go far to the north, we can see that low pressure system in southern South Dakota right there. And it is pretty hard to pick out the warm front that far north. We can see we go from 37 here around just west of Duluth. Goes up to about 43 in northern Iowa. It's gradually warming up to 51 at Des Moines. 51. Okay, I think the warm-up is kind of slowed down right in this area. So maybe I would place the warm front boundary through here. So basically from Omaha to Salt Lake or St. Louis. So south of that we have some fairly homogeneous 70s or 50s, and north of that a lot of 40s and 30s. And then the cold front comes south kind of like that. So yeah, I'll probably go with this, but like I said, you probably could find a boundary a little bit further south even, such as right here. See, north of that, we've got lower to mid 50s for temperatures. South of that, close to 70. So I'm kind of inclined to go with this here. And then further west, you can see that Pacific air pushing in, and it's pretty unstable with that cold core further to the west. So we're getting some snow showers in the higher mountains and some gusty winds back there. And I'll place the front once again. And we can see the dew points are quite a bit different. We've got 16, 22 here at Amarillo and Lubbock, and then 55 at Ardmore, 61 at Waco. Temperature anomalies, we haven't looked at this in a while. This is a measure of the departure of surface temperature from the normal for this time of year, and not surprisingly above average across much of the central U.S. It is quite a bit cooler out to the west in Colorado or in California. So because of this, we're kind of going to expect to find a trough to the west, maybe a ridge in the central U.S., trough out to the east, and ridge like that. And then looking at the hemisphere, North Pole located right here. This isn't looking too good for the Arctic, running up to about 20 Fahrenheit degrees above normal. Fortunately, it looks like it's backed off a little bit. When I looked at this a couple weeks ago, a lot of this had the brown shade, and looks like that's backed off to Svalbard and the Russian side. But still, it's running quite a bit above. Anyway, let's head back to the plains, and I'm going to take a look at a few soundings for this area. So we think that there's a front down to the south in maybe around the Red River. So maybe we should take a look at a sounding for Oklahoma City. So let's pull that up very quickly. So what do we have at Norman? Well, we lost it there for a second. Here we go. Here's the Norman sounding for this evening. And this is painting out maybe a slight frontal inversion. You see how the moisture line kind of follows the temperature, tilting up and to the right. So possibly a frontal inversion right there. And then above that, we've got a pretty large subsidence inversion above that, based at about 8,000 feet or so. Let's try Springfield, Missouri. Yeah, this is definitely showing a frontal inversion right there. So this is supporting the idea of a southern front. We'll see what Little Rock has. Don't quite see any signature there, any classic signature for a frontal boundary. And then we'll look at Shreveport. Yeah, this seems to come up a little bit here. So these are ways you can use your skew tees to kind of build your surface charts and kind of put everything together. Then Fort Worth, we know that they're in the warm sector, and you can see lots of good moisture there. About 150 millibars of very deep moisture. Not all that rich. See, we start out here at about maybe 58 Fahrenheit, which is about 15 Celsius right there. So, you know, the moisture could be better if it was better if we were looking at mid-60s dew points and we plotted our lifted parcel. That would be enough to support maybe some thunderstorms. So we're just a little bit short on moisture for severe weather. So we'll go ahead and run forward and look at the forecast. We are getting in a pretty active pattern because we're having a succession of systems coming out of the Pacific. We're going to see this one northern plain storm move to the northeast, and it's already occluded. You can see it's broken away from the stronger thermal gradients well north of there. So this is a baroclinic or barotropic occluding low. And then it looks like the model does want to break out some rain later tonight in Texas. So maybe we're getting a little bit of forced lift with that front as it comes southward. Maybe a little bit of a increase in the low-level jet overnight, feeding that complex. So we're going to watch that area. We still have a very strong frontal boundary, thermal boundary in here, so this is going to be kind of a ripe area for baroclinic development. And then, let's see, when we do the webcast tomorrow night, it's going to look kind of like this. You can see the main baroclinic area is out in the Memphis area. We've developed some showers and thunderstorms out that way. And by baroclinic, I'm talking about these temperature lines, these thickness lines, or density lines. And you can see they're packed very close together. And that's supporting the idea of a front, maybe kind of like that. So we're getting the maximum lift right in that area. And north of that, probably some sort of occlusion going north. And you can see the thickness packing is coming together in this area, maybe a little bit of cyclogenesis in the southwest U.S. Then our webcast for Tuesday evening is going to look like this. Looks like we get a reinforcing shot of cold air in the central U.S. I remember the models have been pointing that out for the past few days. Then for Wednesday, looking like this, 540 line coming all the way down to Oklahoma. So this is going to be a pretty cool air mass sinking south. Things look pretty calm out to the west, but we're going to see a change here later in the week. See the pressure falls out in this area, the thermal boundary in place. And we're starting to develop a little bit of upslope, a little bit of warm air advection in Texas. So we're going to see the clouds start building back later in the week. And then by Friday evening, it's like our frontal system is coming together pretty well just south of Arizona. And we're going to see things starting to go downhill in Texas here. This is Saturday. And this is... Let me get control of my browser here. Okay, let's see. We were at Saturday next week. Okay, so that's going to be Saturday, and I kind of moved the browser so we could focus on this a little bit. And then Sunday, we're looking at this. So things are looking, we're looking at probably the front all the way down in Mexico, kind of like that. And Texas is getting a lot of the overrunning and upslope flow north of that front. Looks like things are getting active out in the northwest U.S. See in that area here, we've got some pressure falls going on there. Here comes the next front into the Pacific Northwest right there. And Texas starts to improve around this time, and things look to be pretty active out in the west. See those thickness lines? They're very close together. Probably seeing some frontogenesis out in this area here. And then getting later in the week, let's see, we're up to Friday the 10th. We're getting 300 hours out, but the model is continuing to suggest the idea of a big Arctic outbreak pushing south into the central U.S. They've got the 540 line all the way down into East Texas. And when we have a 540 line there, we're talking about a lot of 30s for afternoon temperatures. So very cold and blustery. So let's take a look at this low right here that it's painting 324 hours out on the 11th, and we'll back it up a little bit. And we can see we're looking for it to develop in New Mexico and Arizona here. So probably tied into the system here coming on shore as it moves across the Rockies, and it kind of fades away and then reemerges on the other side here on the 10th. So things look pretty interesting, and I've been talking about the second week of December, and it's certainly looking like that. And it's interesting to see that system it's got moving into the eastern U.S. there. See here, big 986 millibar low over western Virginia. Of course, this may not pan out the way it's showing, but it's interesting to look at. So we're looking at December 12th for that. But we need to focus on the large-scale pattern, and that's the fact that we've been advertising this large chunk of cold air to push southward the second week of December. So that's the main thing that I'm going to go for, and the details like that are just going to be kind of up in the air for a while. Whoa, let me bring that down a little bit. Anyway, I appreciate y'all joining, and bring my monitor down here, and let me look over the chat, and chat looks to be pretty busy, and looks like no real problems there. Anyway, I appreciate you joining, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow night, same time. Thanks.